Hello, friends. How are you today? I am so excited to be here today and show you what I have learned about this space with no data in the Schumann resonance today. We are going to talk about the current energies today through the lens of the Schumann resonance, and today we're also going to have an astrology story because with the data missing, I thought that I would take a look at what the astrology says about what the energies may have been at this time, and I came up with some fascinating information that I'm looking forward to share with you. But first, let's take a look at the Schumann chart itself. If this is your first time, the Schumann resonance is a resonance that is in the air around us. It's a resonance. It's resonances that are in the air around us. I guess the best way to look at these resonances are kind of like the sensitive points in an astrology chart. They're a place where energetically we just hum. And there are frequency ranges for these resonances. In general, the Hertz range is from 0 to 40 Hertz, although we have seen the chart go much higher than 40 Hertz. On this chart, it's not measurable, but we've seen obvious graphics that show that the energy has gone above it. Coincidentally, this is also the same range of Hertz for human brain waves. And so you'll hear me referring to various areas of the chart related to what that says about what our human brain waves are saying. But is it only mental? Do we leave out the emotions? It's my view that the solar system energies, the sun, the moon also affect, because they affect the human beings on the planet, they affect the energy that we emit. And it's my view that this does show on the Schumann because, in my view, all the planets are electromagnetically connected, including the sun. So we're going to get into that more in a second. I have more information on this in my beginner playlist. So you can see we were humming along. And we had the new moon on January 2nd or 3rd, depending where you live. On this chart, it's on January 3rd. In the Pacific, the west coast of the USA where I live, it was on January 2nd at 10:33 a.m. And 1:33 a.m. was the peak on this chart. It's interesting because when there's a new moon or full moon, we often get a line on the chart that goes from 0 to 40 Hertz, thereabouts. And this time there was a line, but it was like significantly after we were told the peak of the new moon is. And I've just been watching these things. It's interesting. I've noticed that when there are astrological events, there are often that are major, okay, and it also depends on whether the planets are close or far, or if it's a major shift or not. But I have often seen this occur, and it's also the case that the timing might be off slightly. And so I've talked about it before, and some people have responded to this as well, but that the timing of the events that we're told in terms of our human calendar, I don't know if they're always exact. So we did get this bar of light on the chart, and it's interesting. It goes from about right here. You'd say this is about 1, 2, 3 Hertz. So it went from about 1 Hertz all the way through to 40. This is our spiritual brain waves. This is our deep unconscious, in my view, where we are also connected with the soul. So it's soul to soul at the high end and low end of the chart. The other thing that this, very dramatic line often, in my view, represents is like a shift of seeing something, a shift in attitudes. And it's interesting because this line here, this vertical line with the dots and dashes, it's very similar to the moon line that we would normally get. And that came, so the new moon peak was here at 1:30, and that came a little after 9:30, so about 8 hours later. So it does look like on this chart, the new moon energies are delayed. For some reason, they came a few hours after. Yeah, these lines here don't look like the moon lines that we've seen before. So I did look at that, just so you guys know. Here is the most dramatic thing that happened after the data reappeared on the chart. I want you to closely look at this line here at 20 Hertz. And you can see that the effect around this line goes for, many Hertz top and bottom. And there's kind of a horizontal, I've been calling this a horizontal technological effect. Look at this. It almost makes like a gate around the 20 Hertz line of some sort. So it appears the 20 Hertz line might be really important for our human consciousness. Indeed, this is where we are in our mid-beta brain Hertz. And what are we doing there? We've gone way beyond just observation. By the time we're in 20 Hertz, we're integrating thinking. We're in complex analysis. We're really taking the measure of our environment. Now, what is all this around 20 Hertz? I don't know. Is it us influencing? Is it us really thinking, really doing deep analysis about what's going on and integrating it with our worldview, like with our human system? Is it some kind of interference? Is it some kind of attempt to influence us? Maybe it's both. I don't know. This is conjecture. But take a look what happens. You get the we had a bit of activity starting here, okay? The pot was starting to stir. The stew was about to boil. And then what happens? We get no data, and look at this. Wow. This is the clearest that we have seen this line. And you still do get a little bit of sort of like this dark color up here and these shapes coming off of it. See here, it looks like little T's coming out of it. But this is the clearest that we have seen this 20 Hertz line since September. And let me show you that. Coincidentally, it was also at a major seasonal event. It was right, hold on, this is not the chart. I gotta change it to the chart. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. See here, we had talked about it here at the 20th. Let me find it. Here we go. Okay. Nope, still a lot of black on that one. Where's the equinox? Oh, here's the equinox. Okay. So here's the equinox right there. Here's the full moon peak. Okay. And here's the green line. And you can see that it is a lot cleaner. Really, you have to go back even more weeks than this to get it where it's totally just a clear green line. Wow, my dog. That's not my dog. The guard dog upstairs is very much acting up. Anyway, maybe he's helping clear energy here. See, because look, it's been since before the equinox and full moon peak in September that we've had such a clear green line. And it's interesting because see how this blue looks here where the line is clear? See that? You can see here, look how blue it is, okay? It's even deeper than after the fall, before the fall equinox. Look at this interesting pattern here. I'm going to just adjust the color of the chart for a sec. See that this crisscrossing here, almost like a box, a checkered box. Usually this is down here. Usually, yep, and there they are. See them down there? Usually these are down here. One of them was much higher up. That's interesting. I wonder, it's usually, I call this the bedrock. It's usually at 40 Hertz. And to me, it's like it grounds our embodiment energetically as human beings. But It's interesting that it's raised up because the energy here is so different, right? Look how it's so different on this chart. Actually, let me just reset all the, so the colors are back to normal. After a few hours, we go back to more similar to what the chart looked like prior to the no data event. It looks to me like something really big happened. Something big that essentially cleared the energies. It cleared the chart. Just because we don't have the chart data doesn't mean that you can't do your thing. When the chart is so incredibly clear like this, to me, this is powerful. It's like a clear, like there's nothing between us and our divine connection at 40 Hertz. And indeed, since the energies of the expanded light have come through, I've done several videos on this, so I'm not going to go into it, but from December 17th through December 25th, and then after that, grounding into our human bodies and our human lives and our human realities, it's been so much easier for me to connect spiritually with my divine guidance. It's been a very, very precious time. And that's what I see here. Now, just because it happened sort of from the perspective of the USA where I live last night, doesn't mean that you don't still have access to these energies, because it's my view that this is timeless, that it's somewhat unhooked from time on planet Earth. And that's why I think that we see things like this where you have this new moon effect, it was a new moon effect. Hours after we're told there was a new moon peak, it looks to me that the chart is saying the new moon peak was actually more closer to 9:33. Okay, probably it was this, and then there was some other effect here, possibly related to that. And I'm going to show you what that could be next. So I want to show you what the astrological energies say about what might have happened during the no data period. So on our current chart, I went and did an analysis, and the moon was sextile Mars during our no data period. So I went and looked at some other periods where the moon was sextile Mars, and the most recent one was this December 6th chart. Now, when at the height of this beautiful formation of energy here, where the light just pours in, okay? And I called this the gates of heaven. On the astrology video, I did mention sextile energy. Actually, there was multiple sextiles, but we're looking at moon sextile Mars here. You had this happen, okay, when the moon was sextile Mars, both at the same exact, I'm talking exact degree. They were both at 25 degrees. A sextile is when the astrological bodies are 60 degrees apart. Okay, now let's go back and look at some more historical information. The moon conjunct Mars doesn't seem to produce the same result. For example, if I go back to this chart, here you have, right here, you have the moon conjunct Mars and actually the sun as well at the exact degree. And here we have a dashed line. It's very similar to the lines that happen at the new moon. Here's the new moon, and a little bit before that, you have this dash, actually you have two of them, dashed lines. This one here is more common, but this one here could also be in effect related to the new moon, because we had something similar happen on the current chart where we had a new moon line, and then shortly after we had one that went very clearly from 0 to 40 Hertz very strongly. Here it is. Okay. Here's what I call the delayed new moon energy. Here's the dashed dotted line, and then the strong line that goes very, very strongly from almost 0 to 40 Hertz. Interesting, right? Okay, so the next one was on September 9th. Let me go find that here. So here we had Mars and the moon conjunct exactly at the same degree again. And what we had here this time was a clearing of the chart. Okay, now you did have one of these dashed lines before that happened, and then you had a clearing. And if the technological effect had not been here, I'm calling this almost technological looking series of lines, vertical lines here, then you would have had a deep, deep blue on the chart. As it is, you do have a pretty deep blue on the chart, but it's filled with these vertical lines. All right, now, this is really interesting. The December 6th sextile showed that we have the data for this. But let's go back and look at another period of no data, which was on August 4th. And guess what we find? We see that, hold on, let me get to the follow-on chart here. Here we go. We see that there was no data available. And right here, it's just like today's chart. The moon was sextile Mars exact, okay? And then 1, 2, 3.5 hours later, no data. But we do have these impressive white resonance lines later in the chart. I called this a shift in realities, okay? And it's very similar to what we have on today's chart, okay? When you have this here, this deep, deep, incredible deep blue and the very thin 20 Hertz line, and then suddenly, bam, it's like we are in completely different reality, one moment to the next. Okay, this energy state being expressed in the Schumann on Earth, okay, through humans and reflecting human consciousness and also everything else that comes into play to create this chart. Okay, so from one moment we're here and then we're here. So that's a shift in reality. So this is the last time we had a moon sextile Mars. Okay, this is the last time we had one where there was also no data. So I wanted to show you this historic astrological effect that seems to also show up on the Schumann resonance. Now this is just a short amount of data, okay, so it's from August, September, October, January, so this is 4 months. If I was going to really nail it down, I would look at a longer term trend, but we have we have 3 good examples here that play into, including the conjunctions, we have 5 that play into the idea that the moon, when Mars is involved, that it does show up on the Schumann chart. And that would make sense because Mars is one of, it's called the personal planets, but it's one of the planets closest to Earth. So it would make sense that movements of Mars or relationships between Mars and the moon, obviously very close to Earth, could affect the electromagnetic energy of Earth and the human beings on Earth who live in electromagnetic human energy fields. This is fantastic, isn't it? Now, what could have been going on in this no data space of today's chart? And by the way, the no data occurred for 32 hours. So what we see is we see that the 20 Hertz line cleared. We see the chart cleared with this deep blue. And what could be happening here? Now I'm going to look and tell an astrological story. We're going to look at the energies that were going on in the astrology chart right as this initiated. The human resonance. It's all about the vibe.